Everyone, we'll make a start. Thank you very much for attending the meeting. My name is Councillor Abdul Khayum, Councillor of Faith Park and Chair of this licensing subcommittee. I'm just going to introduce my colleagues from my right.
Hi, I'm Councillor Peter Gilbert for Ecclesall Ward.
Hello, I'm Councillor Barbara Masters, Ecclesall Ward.
Morning, Samantha Bond, Legal Advisor to the subcommittee.
Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane Goff from Licensing, reading the report this morning.
Joanne Cooper, Democratic Services.
David Clutterbull from Trading Standards.
Catherine Jarvis, Police Licensing.
Good morning, Julie Haig, Safeguarding.
Good morning, Jordan Cross from Immigration Enforcement.
Thanks, everyone. Any apologies for absence?
Yes, we have one from, excuse me, from Licensing this morning because she's not very well, so she's not unable to attend this morning.
Any declarations of interest? No. Just going to ask the House Solicitor to outline the procedure. She'll do at the end. Okay.
Lovely, thank you, Chair. Has everyone got a copy of the papers that need them? Yeah, lovely. So the procedure's right at the back of the pack on page 160. It looks a lot worse than it is, but I'll just run through it so we all know where we're at. So Jane, the licensing officer this morning, will introduce the report. If there are any questions concerning the report, these can be asked by members or the applicant or other parties present. So if there's anything inaccurate or missing, and then we can get that amended for the record. We'll then turn over to the applicant for review, so that's Immigration Enforcement this morning, to detail the application. Members and officers can ask questions. We haven't got the premises here today, so once we've done with that, we'll just head down the road to the next authorities. I think Mrs. Jarvis has asked if she can go after you due to time constraints. So we'll head to South Yorkshire Police Licensing next to detail their relevant representations. Again, members can ask questions, and then we'll follow on with whoever wants to go next out of Safeguarding and Trading Standards. As I said, the premises aren't present today. They have been contacted and invited to the hearing, but we've not had any response back from them. So we'll proceed in their absence, as everyone's happy to do so. Basically, once we've heard from everybody, you'll be given the opportunity to briefly sum up, just to leave us with any final thoughts. We'll take the options from Jane as detailed in the report, and then members will go into private session to take legal advice and consider the application for review. The decision of the Licensing Committee will be given in accordance with the requirements of the Licensing Act 2003 and regulations made thereunder. At any time during the hearing, members can request legal advice, so we can do that in open session as we are now, or private, where we'll just ask you guys to nip in the room next door while we have a discussion, and then we'll invite you back in and feedback what was said. And the hearing is in public this morning. It's being live webcast, so unless anybody determines that the webcasting should be stopped or paused, we'll carry on with that as we go, and that should be everything. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, so can we have the report then, please?
You can. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending this morning for the review hearing in relation to Golden Off Licence 183 to 187 Aberdale Road, Sheffield. So this was submitted by Home Office Immigration Enforcement on the 2nd of December due to the premises licence holder and designated premises supervisor, Hedrin Keda Azar, apologies if I've said that wrong, being found to be employing individuals illegally who have no right to work in the country. Alongside the employment of illegal workers, immigration officers observed breaches of the premises licence conditions, as well as finding illegal vapes and numerous boxes of cigarettes and rolling tobacco with no UK duty paid available for sale. So the grounds for review this morning are based on the licensing objectives of the prevention of crime and disorder. The review application and supporting evidence is at Appendix A if you would wish to view that in your pack. Current premises licence is in Appendix B. So the reason for referral today is that under the Licensing Act, a review must be determined unless it is withdrawn or if representations are made by interested parties. So throughout the licensing, the consultation period, sorry, forgot my words, it has been confirmed that Hedrin Mr Azar has had photographic evidence. Oh my goodness, that's that coffee. Too much caffeine. It's confirmed that Mr Azar had seen the photographic identification of the registration card for both the workers, which clearly stated no work was permitted. And this information can be found within the application documents at Appendix A. In addition to the Immigration Service, the Licensing Authority has also received representations from Sheffield Trading Standards, Sheffield Children's Safeguarding Partnership, South Yorkshire Police and the Licensing Authority. Everybody's been invited to attend the hearing this morning and is Appendix D of the report. So I'm just going to scoot through the rest of the hearing report because we could be here all day. We'll go to the appeals section, which is section 7, Chair, if that's okay. The Licensing Act 2003, section 181 and schedule 5 makes provision for appeals to be made by the applicant, the holder of the premises licence and those making representations against the decisions of the licensing authority to the Magistrates' Court. So the recommendations this morning, Chair, are that members carefully consider the application for review along with any other representations that have been made and take such steps as detailed in paragraph 5.2 of this report that the committee consider necessary for the promotion of the licensing objectives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Jane, any questions? That put everybody okay about that? Okay. Right, we'll move on to representations. Who's going first? Sorry. Okay, immigration.
Morning, Chair. So I would like to confirm that the committee members have had time to read the submission pack. So I don't propose to read through the pack, but I'll make a couple of key points before I summarise the case. So the ability to work illegally is a key driver of illegal migration. It encourages people to break the UK immigration laws and provides practical means for migrants to remain in the UK unlawfully. It encourages people to take risks in trying to enter the UK illegally by putting their lives in the hands of unscrupulous people, smugglers, and leaves them vulnerable to exploited employers. Illegal working results in businesses that are not playing by the rules and undercutting legitimate businesses that are. It also negatively impacts on the wages of lawful workers and can be linked to other labour market users' abuse such as tax evasion, breach of national minimum wage and exploitative working conditions. Working illegally is a criminal offence and on conviction in England and Wales, an illegal worker may receive a custodial sentence of up to 6 months and an unlimited fine. Employing illegal workers undermines the licensing objectives, specifically the prevention of crime and disorder. Immigration enforcement do not just drive around looking for businesses to target. We are intelligence-led and there must be significant concerns for us to action incoming intelligence. We do not routinely refer to seek a licence review, but we do so in selected cases where we have heightened concerns. So immigration enforcement, we've visited these premises on 2 occasions. The first instance was on the 29th of June 2023, where 2 male workers were encountered. Home Office checks were conducted and one of the males we had no permission to work and was arrested due to him breaching his conditions of no work in the UK. When questioned by immigration officers, he denied working at the first instance, but then admitted to working at the shop, to which he received £40 per week. This rate of pay is grossly under the minimum wage. The first visit should have served as a warning for the premises holder and would have hoped that lessons were learned by the licence holder. A year later, we received intelligence regarding illegal working, illicit tobacco and cigarettes. Therefore, we conducted an immigration enforcement visit on the 2nd of August 2024. In the shop was one male, and when we tried to obtain the details of the male, he tried to give a false name and date of birth. We then finally established the details, and he was arrested on suspicion of breaching his bail in the UK by working illegally at the premises. Again, this individual denied working at the first instance, but then admitted that he'd been working at the shop for 1 month, 3 to 4 times per day, 3 to 4 hours per day at a rate of £5 per hour. Again, this rate is grossly under the minimum wage. He was also in possession of the shutter fob at the premises. As per the intel, a search was conducted of the premises and cigarettes with no UK duty paid and illegal vapes were discovered. These were photographed on scene and presented in our pack. The pack also details other breaches of licensing conditions that were observed by officers. Immigration enforcement referred the case to our independent civil penalties team. and a £45,000 civil penalty has been issued. Section 182 guidance at point 11.27 outlines certain criminal activity that may arise in connection with licensed premises, which should be treated particularly seriously. This includes employing a person who is disqualified from that work by reason of their immigration status in the UK. 11.27 also includes the sale of storage of smuggled tobacco and alcohol. Point 11.28 states that where a review arises from such activity and the licence authority determines that the crime prevention objective is being undermined through the premises being used to further crimes, it is expected that the revocation of the licence, even in the first instance, should be seriously considered. All that being said, we recognise that our role is to bring these concerns to your attention as a local licensing authority. This is your area, and it's you that answer to the electorate and represent the interests of local people. In line with the guidance, the Home Office and Immigration Enforcement, we are seeking to the subcommittee to consider revoking the premises licence. Unless I can answer any other specific questions, I don't propose to take any more of your time, and I thank you for your attention and considerations.
Any questions? Barbara?
Thank you. Can you clarify, from your first visit in 23, was a fine issued then? Because this says here, the penalty was 23rd of October 24.
Yes, so on our first visit, we referred it to our civil penalties team, and they didn't have enough evidence to suggest a fine to be issued. So at that first instance, we thought that the premises licence would get his house in order. However, he's carried on with illegal working and illicit tobacco and cigarettes.
And has he paid the fine since?
Well, I've tried to find that info out. However, I've not got that info back, but I do know that a £45,000 issue has been issued. Unfortunately, I can't confirm whether this has been paid or not. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Gilbert? No. Sam?
Thank you, Chair. So you said it was intelligence-led for the first visit back in June 23. Sort of because these reviews are relatively rare in our city, fortunately. How many premises in Sheffield would you say you visit? Is it a regular thing? Licensed premises, that is, sorry.
Yeah, we're always conducting visits around the Sheffield area. Obviously, for a licence review to happen, the business has to be notoriously continuing to do this. Obviously, this is the second occasion we've visited the Golden Off licence, and this was the second time that we found illegal workers, and on the first instance we found illicit vapes, unduty paid tobacco. So obviously, we thought we'd bring this to your attention for obviously to consider a licence review. But yeah, like I said, we're always out in Sheffield and South Yorkshire. So yeah, any businesses that are notoriously doing that, we always refer for a licence review.
Okay. Thank you. And in terms of the illicit vapes and tobacco, did that then get referred to our trading standards? Was that information passed on?
Yeah, that's correct. So on scene, we always take pictures in situ. Obviously, I think the time when we visited was a Friday night around 9 o'clock at night. So the likelihood that trading standards or licensing was available, they weren't available. So yeah, all photos were taken of the illicit tobacco and vapes, and then that was photographed in situ and referred to the relevant authorities.
That's great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. No more questions. Right, can we move on?
Morning, Chair. Catherine Jarvis from Police Licensing. So our involvement has come in September of this year. Safeguarding had received a concern into them that underage vulnerable children were being able to access alcohol, vapes and cigarettes from this premise. So myself and Julie attended on the 22nd of September to visit the premise to have a discussion around those areas. At that point, I wasn't fully aware of the details of previous visits by the other authorities, but I was aware that a review may be pending. So we've entered the premise. We've identified ourselves as officers from the local authorities, and we've asked to speak with the premise licence holder and DPS, Mr. Hendren Azar. The person behind the counter, there was two males in there present when we arrived. The male behind the counter was speaking very broken English, and said he didn't know who I was talking about, didn't understand. So we tried to explain again, and we pointed to the licence and the name on the licence. And then Mr Azar identified himself as he is the premise licence holder and DPS. So he initially was trying to hide his identity from us. We explained the reason for the visit, and that part of the visit was to conduct a licence check to see what processes they've got in place to safeguard against accidental sales or sales to underage persons. He totally denied that they would ever sell to any underage persons. We didn't have a date and time, so it was not something we could check on the CCTV to confirm or deny. So we just focused on making sure that there was compliance with the licence and that there was due diligence at this premise. Unfortunately, we were able to see that there were 16 out of the 21 licence conditions in breach at the time of our visit in the September. We spent a significant time at the shop speaking with Mr Azar, explaining all the different things that he needed to do to be compliant with his licence and to be diligent in the areas that we require. I even wrote down the key points for him prior to us leaving, and then I followed that up the following day with a very detailed report, which you'll be able to reference at it's Exhibit CJ. One is the email that I sent to him, and Exhibit CJ2 is I copied all of the conditions of his licence and then in red put what he needed to be doing, so it was simple and easy for him to just go down each one and make sure he was compliant. In the email, I also supplied him with, you'll be able to see all the attachments that I sent to him, log sheets, sample training record sheets, some training material around challenge policy, proxy sales, fake ID training. So we sent him posters, everything that he would need to try and help with compliance for the licence. So that was all done on the 23rd email. We've then, I had one response from him on the 30th, where he sent me some photographs on WhatsApp of some Challenge 25 posters on display, and he was encouraged to crack on with all the other areas because that wasn't just about putting posters up. We've then reattended again on our second visit, which is the 27th of November. Mr Azar wasn't present at the premise. We did speak to a staff member that was working there, although she said she didn't work there, but she was clearly working there, and she was just helping out so Mr Azar could go attend an appointment. She did give him a call to see if he could attend the premise to speak with us, and he said he was unable to attend and that she could speak on his behalf. So we've spoken with this staff member, and we've gone through again what the complaints were around the underage, what was her understanding of how she was going to check ID, and what training had she had, which she had advised she didn't have any training. And we asked if we could see incident logbooks, and we did a basic check of the licence. We weren't able to see any evidence of anything other than those three posters being displayed, having been completed. So we then we left the shop at this point to go do other visits, and whilst out on the visits, received an email from Mr Azar asking why we've been to his shop and what was the problem, which I was quite surprised about. I did respond back to him, expressing that, you know, we'd been out on the 22nd visit. He needs to refer back to the emails that I've sent. He really needs to get on with those items. You know, it's really important to be compliant with the licence, which he's currently not. And we've got no confidence that that premise is running safely and isn't selling to underage persons. And we needed that confidence, and by being compliant with his licence and showing due diligence, that would help with that. He advised he would get on with that. We then arranged to go back out to see him in the December, a couple of weeks later. Prior to that visit, I emailed him again to ensure he had everything that we'd sent him. I do apologise. In November, I actually took with me the printed email that I sent and the exhibits CJ1 and CJ2 and handed those as physical copies to the staff member. So he had them as a physical copy as well. Prior to the visit in December, I emailed him a few days before to check he was okay for us to still visit, and again copying him in to all of the documents to ensure that all those things were done prior to our visit on the 11th. We then attended at the premise and we were met with quite an aggressive Mr Azar and a female staff member that we'd not met before. They felt that we didn't have a right to be there. He says he felt that we were picking on him and that he hasn't sold to any underage. And I advised him that that was a negligent point at this stage. That's what originally brought us to your premise, to see you, to talk to you about it. But what is keeping us coming back is the fact that you're not complying with your licence, and that's a legal requirement. He then advised that he didn't understand what we want. I referred him to all the emails, the fact that we've explained it numerous times, and he continued to get aggressive. So I decided that I felt that we needed to end the meeting at that point because we clearly weren't getting anywhere. We've supplied him with absolutely everything. We put in all the emails. If you don't understand anything, if you need clarity, if you need help or support in completing what we've asked you to do, please get in touch, and we've had nothing. So at that point I was ready to end the meeting. My colleagues then, Emma and Julie, stepped in to try and calm him down and his staff member. That worked, and we then proceeded to go through all of the conditions of his licence. And I can say that he had, out of the 16 that were in breach, he was then only in a breach of 10 of the conditions. So that there has been an improvement, but not within the areas of significance that we would need to see. And despite all of the help and support, he'd not done these things within a timely fashion. We then advised that we would put him on a formal action plan with set times, and it wouldn't be, you know, weeks down the line. It would be a very short time scale, and we'd expect to see all of this completed. He knew that that was coming via email. We told him to keep a lookout for that, and he needed to respond via email to accept that he'd received it, and that we would be back to check on those conditions. We've received no further contact from Mr Azar at that point. I believe he did send an email in on the 23rd to say he tried to call somebody but got no answer. I forwarded that on to my colleagues because I was off at Christmas. Tried to get hold of him when I returned on the 30th, and he didn't answer, so I wasn't able to get back hold of him. I then received, which is the witness statement that I supplied yesterday, so I do apologise about that being delayed. I wanted to wait as long as possible to see if he did respond. Unfortunately, he didn't. He sent me an email saying that, yeah, he's happy to go on the action plan. This is over 5 weeks since it was sent to him, so again, a very delayed response. And he sends me a copy of his authorised to sell list, but with no staff names on it, so there's no authorisation to anybody to serve on his behalf. It was disappointing that it took him over 5 weeks to respond, and he's still not supplied the bulk of all the items that we'd asked for. I did respond to his email that same day, and as you can see from the email there, I told him it was disappointing and that we needed to see the evidence of compliance with the action plan. And again, I've had zero response from Mr Azar. It's South Yorkshire Police's belief that Mr Azar has either is not able to or is unwilling to comply with the requirements of the licence and of the authorities. We've tried to work with him. We've given him every possible support. I don't know how many times we can talk to him about what he needs to do and to provide him with all the things that he needs to do, sure of us actually doing it for him. And with all the other concerns around the immigration, the sale of illicit tobacco, it's a concern that this person is allowed to continue having his licence to sell alcohol. So we would submit that we would request that you revoke the licence for this premise. Thank you.
Okay,
If there's
thank
any
you.
questions.
So you have any, if we have any questions? Councillor Gilbert? Councillor Masterson? Sam?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, you work with a lot of licensed premises in the city as well. How unusual is it to offer the advice and this level of support and for it to not be taken on board and for there to be change at the premises?
We offer this level of support to everybody. It's a standard practice that we do when we go out and we find there's breaches. We always email them. We give the verbal advice when we're physically there. We always email them and we always supply them with training material, links to free training that is offered as well to help support them. And we're always there if they've got any questions. Usually, if any premises do struggle, they do communicate with us and we will do further visits if required, or we'll send further clarification if they need it. On occasion, we have even spoken to other family members if language barriers have been an issue, and we're happy to do that and to communicate in whatever way they need to support them. Usually, we have a high success rate of that level of support that we offer from the very get-go, gives the positive results that we require. So that's why we do it from the straight off for everybody. So we can try and avoid getting to this stage. And if it hadn't been for immigration submitting their review, I believe we would have been submitting a review ourselves based on the fact that the action plan's not been adhered to.
Thank you. That was going to be my next question as well. That's helpful. Thank you. I'm good, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, just one from me, just going on from what licensing, legal advisors asked. Obviously, there's certain minor breaches that you know, for whatever reason, oversight or whatever, that I'm sure anybody would expect to get some help with, or assistance, trying to to ensure that they actually don't breach and they comply. But there are some, in this particular instance, or it may be in some other cases, some serious breaches. Underage, selling to underage children, illegal tobacco, employing workers not. So is it just standard practice just to on the first visit or second visit just to continue trying to get them to comply and assist with ensure they don't breach further? And does that any previous breaches, however serious they are, did they just not get taken into account and no action taken? Is that just normal practice? I'm just wondering.
In terms of this premise, this was the first time it came to our attention, as in the licensing and safeguarding myself. The initial visit is always, obviously, it's advice and support. When it's significant numbers, then we do give them every opportunity to help and support them. I suppose it's how quickly we jump to the next stage is dependent on what kind of response we're getting, I suppose. And if they are really trying, we may, we have had people on action plans for up to 6 months because they haven't fully got there, but they are working really hard and we're supporting them and they're getting there. Obviously, with Mr. Azar, we were trying to give those opportunities. We've done the verbal visit with the email and the notes that I wrote for him. We've gone the second time and we've provided everything in printed out format in case he hasn't got a printer. And then we gave them that extra opportunity. We had a short window that we were then giving him, and if within those 2 weeks we hadn't received anything, we were going to be reviewing. But as I say, immigration had already triggered the review process anyway. And to be fair, as I say, because we got no response, we would have triggered a review ourselves at that point. So coming back after the Christmas holiday period, having had no response, we would have felt that we needed to review the licence at that stage. There's no sort of set process. It's not sort of 2 strikes and it's a review. It's just very dependent on, you know, how many chances we want to try and give them, really. We don't really want to get to review stage. So if we feel that there's some sort of sliver of hope that they are going to suddenly get on board, and a lot of the time I do feel that when we do our first visit and we say everything, they think we're not going to come back, and they think, oh, they've gone away, and then we do come back. And then they realise, tend to after the second visit, oh, actually, they're not going to go away until we do this, and then they start engaging. And as I say, by the time we got to the third visit, we had seen some improvement. It wasn't a significant improvement, but it was some improvement. So we wanted to give that last opportunity to get him over that hurdle and get him fully compliant. And as I say, he didn't get there. And I would suggest the fact he hasn't turned up today to speak to anybody about these matters shows he's got a total disregard for the licence and what he needs to do as a responsible business owner in the community.
Okay, thank you. No more questions? Not from me either. Okay, thank you for that. Moving on, licensing.
Sorry, I'm trading standards, but thank you,
Trading
Chair.
standards.
So obviously, yeah, we're here because the review's been brought by colleagues in immigration. So on the 13th of December last year, trading standards were out doing a routine test purchasing operation where we send somebody in to try and buy illicit tobacco, and one of the shops on the list was Golden off licence, and the test purchaser was able to buy a pack of non-duty paid illegal Marlboro Gold cigarettes for £7. You'd expect to pay for a legitimate pack of those cigarettes anywhere between maybe £12 and £14. So obviously that's significantly cheaper than what should be paid for those cigarettes. So shortly afterwards, the following week, on the 18th of December, Trading Standards officers inspected the shop, and there was a staff member behind the counter who was in possession of 5 packs of illegal cigarettes, and out the back in black bin liners there was a further 480 packs of illegal cigarettes. So a fairly significant seizure. Additionally, there was also 2 50-gram pouches of illegal hand-rolling tobacco, Golden Virginia hand-rolling tobacco, and also outside the rear shops, 40 illegal vapes were also found. I'm not going to go on at length about the sort of issues around illegal tobacco. I think by now everyone has a sort of an understanding of that. Only to say that obviously I mentioned the price of the test purchase. The whole idea is that around smoking policy is that the price is kept high, you know, to make people quit. And obviously, if they're getting tobacco and cigarettes at half the price of what they should be paying, then that, you know, that really does undermine the government policy of using taxation. It's estimated it costs around £2 billion a year in lost revenue, the illicit tobacco trade. So I mean, it's a lot of money. And also a point that I think sometimes gets overlooked is the impact it has on legitimate traders. There's always that focus on the taxation element and the public health element, which is obviously very, very important. But we do get complaints from traders who do try and do the right thing and say, look, you know, I don't sell this kind of stuff, but I'm losing customers. You know, we in Trading Standards have a role. Yes, part of our role is consumer protection, but it's also legitimate trader protection and keeping a level playing field. So that's why we do what we do. And I always like to emphasise the importance of protecting decent, honest businesses who want to trade properly. I'll just touch on obviously there was 40 illegal vapes found as well. It's a massive problem, illegal disposable vapes. They've got to have a maximum tank size of 2 millilitres. and be sort of officially registered with the MHRA, which obviously many of the ones we find, including these 40, they weren't either. I know it was mentioned earlier about the guidance under section 182, and I'll just reiterate, yes, storage of smuggled tobacco and alcohol is one of those things listed which is singled out for sort of particular scrutiny, if you like, and even in the first instance, revocation should be strongly considered. Obviously, we've now got two. Well, if you go along with the immigration colleagues found that tobacco and vapes on their visit, we've got a test purchase from the 13th plus a large seizure on the 18th. So we've got more than one incidence of trading in illegal tobacco and vapes on the premises, and for that reason, I'd strongly recommend that you consider revoking the licence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. You said that you were following a list. How's this list compiled? Because, forgive me if I've missed a bit, but you passed on information that you'd spotted illicit stuff in your first visit in June. And so that's why it was on the list. But how else do premises get on your list? This is curiosity.
Yes, no problem. It's complaints from the public, intelligence from other agencies, and also we do have like a monitoring system. So the way we can test if traders are still trading is to do undercover test purchasing. So, you know, periodically, once every 2-3 months, we'll go out and attempt to buy products and illicit tobacco. So yeah, there's a number of ways of why there'll be a list of shops that require a test purchase.
Thank you. Effectively, it's intelligence-led.
Yes, absolutely.
Tip-offs. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gilbert. Sam.
Sorry, could you just, yeah, thank you. So on the visit you had the test purchase which was failed. Did you then conduct a search of the shop there and then?
No, it'll be in a specific test purchasing operation with a number of shops on the list. In case of driving around and going around them, going them out. So there won't have been, there was no inspection on that particular date.
So when you went back on the 18th, that's when did you go back with the intention of searching the shop then? And were staff on site helpful with the search? Were they just sort of there?
They were just there. They weren't, I wouldn't say they were helpful, but they weren't obstructive either. They just sort of let us get on with it, essentially. I think we had a sniffer dog as well, so there was quite a lot of people in there, but yeah, it was a fairly routine search.
I was going to ask, was it through the dog then that the items at the rear of the shop were discovered, or was that just from your own experience?
It wasn't through the dog list. I mean, the dogs are very useful, and when we have concealments on the floors and behind walls, and the dogs almost essential really, but they weren't even sealed. They were just in black bin liners out the back, so the dog wasn't actually required to do anything on this.
So just quite blatantly stocked.
Yeah.
There.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no more questions. Julie.
Thanks, Chair. Well, the Safeguarding Children Partnership made a representation because of the concerns around safeguarding. Basically, it's not a safe environment for children and young people, and the licence conditions have not been complied with. So information came into to my role in safeguarding in October last year, and that information came from a meeting with Children's Services. So just to explain, I attend meetings where we have concerns about children, and then the information, if there's a location or a premises that we're worried about in Children's Services, we'll link in with police and trading standards. We share that information through other meetings and talk about how we can address the compliance or concerns. So that triggered a meeting by myself and Catherine in police licensing. We went along on the 22nd of October, taking our usual approach, which is to try and talk to the licence holder, explain the concerns, explain the information. In this case, the information was that a 15-year-old had been able to buy vapes and alcohol without being challenged. So we went along to explain that. The usual response when we get this kind of information is the licence holder will say, what do I need to do? And they'll cooperate with us and we start to see some results. Catherine's just explained that. In this case, we asked to see evidence of compliance. So the usual things, you know, we wanted to see refusals logs, we wanted to see signage, we wanted to see posters about the risks of using fake ID, because often licensees will use those conversations with kids, you know, if it's fake, do you realise this can happen, you can be prosecuted and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of things licensees can do to prevent underage sales, and that's what we were looking for. And we were looking for those things specifically because the licence has conditions. So it's a very well-conditioned licence. If you were compliant, there'd be a really good safeguarding arrangement in place. Unfortunately, there was no evidence of compliance with any of that. And sometimes that happens, so we will then again start to, you know, try to support the licensee, educate them, advise them, provide a whole range of resources and materials, which Catherine did through emails, and from the Safeguarding Partnership, we offer free online training. That came at the cost, you know, the Safeguarding Partnership paid for that development of that training. We make it available to all business operators in Sheffield so that they are supported and that they understand their responsibilities, they understand why they need to comply. We're not just waving a stick, we try and explain the risks, because age-restricted products can be linked to bigger problems, you know, antisocial behaviour, criminal activity, exploitive activity. So things like vapes, cigarettes, alcohol, we are always concerned about underage sales. So Mr. Azar was given lots of verbal advice during our visit, our first visit on the 22nd of October. Lots of materials, an invitation for him and all his staff to attend this online training. It's free, it's available 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they get 6 weeks to complete it. So they register, and we're not saying you've got to take 2 hours out of your business. We're saying you can do it in, you know, when things are quiet, or, you know, through the night, whatever suits you. We try to be as flexible and supportive as we can. So we gave all of that in October. We went back in November on the 27th, myself, Mrs. Jarvis from Police Licensing and Mrs. Rhodes-Evans from Council Licensing, hoping to see some improvement. There was no evidence of any improvement other than 3 Challenge 25 posters were on the wall. But during the visit in November, when we spoke to the member of staff, because Mr. Hendren wasn't present, she appeared to know very little about refusals, which was a worry because she was the sole member of staff. She couldn't find the refusals log, which indicated that if a young person had gone in, there was no way she was going to be recording it because she couldn't find the book, and she confirmed she'd had no formal training. So there we've got an untrained person, you know, manning the ship, so to speak. She did ring Mr. Azar when we turned up, and he declined to, you know, come along and have a chat with us about how things were going. And so we visited again on the 11th of December. Mr. Azar was present, but unfortunately there was still very little sign of compliance. He'd still not registered to do any of the online training that I just mentioned, with no reason why. He appeared quite challenging when we asked, you know, why have you not done that or made any progress? And his view was, where was my evidence that children are buying, you know, I felt at that point we'd probably done everything we could, and I would point out this usually works. We've got lots of licensed premises in Sheffield, and they usually start to show some signs of compliance and get on board with what we're trying to do in partnership. And it's not the case with this premises, unfortunately. I've submitted evidence. We asked to see, on the 3rd visit, we asked to see the refusals log. And I was really shocked, actually, because it went back to 2002. So I felt it wasn't really a legitimate, you know, record. We got 2 entries from 2002 and then 4 entries from 2004 in between the time of our visits. And normally, if someone's been keeping records from 2002, which is 23 years, 22 years, you would have a bigger log. So again, concerned about that. There was no safeguarding risk assessment done, which we'd been asking for, and still no attempt. He'd not even registered himself or any of his staff for the free training. So at that point, we felt possibly if we issued an action plan, that might indicate the seriousness of it. An action plan was then issued, a multi-agency one, setting out really clear steps with timescales, and my understanding is that that's not being complied with either. So from a safeguarding point of view, I feel we have nowhere to go in terms of supporting the licence holder to be compliant or to be diligent. They don't operate to the standards we would expect, and so the safeguarding partnership is asking for a revocation of the licence in order to prevent children being at risk at the premises. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, any questions?
I have a general one, and I'm not so sure it's appropriate now, so Samantha will tell me if it's not. Now, I mean, I know we've got options, we've got to consider them in private. Right, so whether the option is to allow him to keep his licence or to revoke it, are there follow-up measures that you automatically do to make sure that whatever our decision is complied with? Because you've told me all your processes up till now, but I want to know what happens after a decision is made. Thank you.
That we would resume the visits, resume the same conversations. Usually when we get to the point of a review, we have nowhere to go, so we'll present that to yourselves for decisions so that you're aware of what's going on. Should the licensee retain the licence and continue to operate, we would have to invest the similar sort of resources. We would do more visits, compliance visits. We can't make him attend the training. I mean, you could put conditions on requiring it, but we can't physically make him do it. That's the problem.
This was more of a general one to all of you because you're all different agencies, and so if we say revoke it, how can we be sure that he will no longer sell licensed or illegal goods? Or if we allow him to keep the licence, how can we be sure that he's now compliant? And you've answered your bit, but as I say, this is a...
Yeah, I can answer from an immigration point of view. So obviously we are Intel-led, so if further Intel comes in, we will obviously go back to the business. We do also, as my colleagues mentioned here, do some kind of compliance visits. So sometimes in order to see if businesses are complying, obviously with employing people who have got right to work in the UK, we will go out to businesses, obviously uniform but no PPE, obviously stab vested. We'll try and talk to business users, we'll try and see what checks do they carry out, how they look to conduct checks. Some people just say, I just look at an insurance number, a national insurance number. Obviously we know that's not the right way, so we'll educate employers. So from a compliance visit, from an immigration side, we do also conduct compliance visits to try and get business users on board and to see if they are performing the right checks for people to obviously work and live in the UK legally.
From a police perspective, as Julie's already stated, if you allowed him to retain his licence and add extra conditions to that licence, we would have to go back out again and probably just start the process from the beginning. So we give the advice, the support, go back, do a visit, and if we're still not seeing the compliance, then we'd be at the same point where we're coming back to do a review of the licence again. I would submit that he's not complying with the licence conditions that he's got. He's not clearly never complied with them since he's had control of that business since, I think it was 2022. I would believe adding any more conditions would be fruitless because he's not complying with the ones he's got now. And the other sort of point to mention, which you asked about, is if you did revoke the licence, there's nothing to stop him continuing selling the alcohol. If he chose to, then that would be dealt with by the local authority in terms of prosecution. So they would interview under caution and look to potentially prosecute for, sale of alcohol or, yeah, you would, wouldn't you? Yeah, for sale of alcohol, which without a licence. So then it would be dealt with in a different manner. Yeah, yeah, but again, and there's no guarantees for anything, is there? Unfortunately. Oh, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We're intelligence led, so if we continue to get reports of illegal activity in terms of, you know, illicit tobacco, vapes, or well anything else that trade standards look at, then I'm sure we'd be going down. But as Catherine just said, in terms of if you whatever actions you choose to do, whether that be conditions or revocation, it's then up to the council licensing to enforce whatever measures come afterwards. I mean, we can deal with our sort of areas of that we've brought on this review, but in terms of the measures in the Act of, you know, carrying on licensable activity without a licence, that would be up to licensing colleagues to enforce that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Can I ask, are any of the agencies aware of any reports of licensing infringements previous to 2022 at this premises? Any history at the premises?
From police, excuse me, from a police perspective, prior to Mr. Azar taking over as the licence holder, there was no previous issues.
Sam? Right, okay. I don't have any question. I think everything's been asked and everything's been said quite clearly. So just to put an opportunity for you, before we ask the licence officer for options, just an opportunity to sum up or anything else you want to add that you think you've missed out or that you want to say any further. Anything from anybody?
Nothing further from myself.
Yeah, I've just got some closing arguments from an immigration enforcement point of view. So we don't wish to be involved in the unnecessary restriction of genuine community services in Sheffield, such as pubs, restaurants or shops. However, there are concerns over the way that this business is being run. As discussed, there needs to be some remedy to that behaviour and a significant way of ensuring that it will not be repeated. They should also serve a clear message to other businesses who are fully compliant with relevant legislation and satisfactory action has been taken. So, as described, obviously 2 illegal workers have been encountered during this enforcement visit, and there is clear evidence of illegal working. And like I said earlier, I would expect the licence holder to have his house in order after the first visit back to the premises in June 23. Obviously, as mentioned previously, the licence holder has shown total disregard to immigration law, and repercussions of his non-compliance has been issued with a £45,000 fine. Obviously, I've not got evidence to see if he has paid that yet. So, yeah, Home Office have prevented the evidence to form this licence committee. Considerations to draw its attention to significant risk of prevention of crime and disorder and the objective being undermined, obviously in line with section 182 of the guidance. So, yeah, that's all the thing I've got to say. So, yeah, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
No, nothing further from me. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for all that. Thanks for attending and making your representations. Options, please, Jane.
Okay, so the options available to the committee this morning are to modify the conditions of the licence, to exclude a licensable activity from the scope of the licence, remove the designated premises supervisor, suspend the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months, revoke the premises licence, or to reject the application for review altogether. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're now going to go into private session. And obviously, if you want to wait outside, we can call you back later, let you know what the decision is. We need to now ask you to leave the meeting along with the licensing officer. Thank you.
I won't be returning if that's okay. I've got a prior appointment, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Based on the presentations that we've heard this morning, we've come to a decision to revoke the licence. Just to say that we have between us expressed serious concerns about everything else that's going on then, particularly around the employment of illegal workers, etc. We hope that action or further action could be taken along those lines as well for those other issues. But what in terms of our responsibility, we are revoking this licence from immediate effect. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. No, just for the benefit of the recording, the applicant has the premises licence holder has the right of appeal against that decision. So following the hearing, everybody will be issued with a notice confirming the decision to revoke the licence and the reasons for that decision, and a summary of what was considered today. So should the premises wish to appeal that, it's within 21 days to Sheffield Magistrates Court. So that revocation will either come into force on day 22, or should they appeal, once that appeal is dispensed with. But we'll obviously keep you all informed as to how that progresses. But thank you all for your time today and in the run-up to this. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. All right, what do we do this minutes then? I haven't done this before, Sam.
So we're just approving the draft minutes of the previous meetings held on some various dates from August last year to November.
Okay, so meeting held on 20th of August.
I approve it because I was there.
You were there, right? Yeah. Do I need to sign these?
Yeah, you do it after the meeting's
Okay.
closed. Just need you to initial each page and sign
Yeah.
the last page.
We'll sort it out. Okay. Meeting held on the 16th of September.
Yes.
Barbara, you're the one.
Yeah, approve, yeah.
Meeting held on the 15th of October. None of us there. Can we still approve if none of us are there? Yeah, okay.
Sorry, is there a missing date?
No, it's none of us were present at the 21st.
Oh yeah, no, it's you don't have to have been there.
Okay, so approve. Meeting held on 22nd of October. Approve. 28th of October. Approve. It's a long one.
4th of November, page 39.
4th of November. Approve. 19th of November. Approve. That's it.
Thank
All
you.
minutes approved. That's it.
Useless, can we go now?
Okay, thanks very much, colleagues.
Thank
I think I just need to initial these and then I'll.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you very much.